I think a very reasonable question to ask is, but what do you do? And so what I like to say is Fascination Film Studio is a heritage and legacy production company. And I think the question people are too polite to ask is, how do you make money doing that? That's a fine question too, and I'll get to it. But first, let's talk about heritage and legacy films. So, a heritage and legacy film is a documentary, a story about people and places. And within places, there's companies and communities. So within communities, you could have like a city or a town, or you could have a community of faith, for example, like a church. And so I'm interested in telling stories of, in all of those different kind of spaces or arenas. And so let's talk about companies, for example. A company might decide that they want to tell their story because maybe it's a company that was a family company that was built up through blood, sweat, and tears, and that company is going to change hands. And they want to record that story, record that legacy for the sake of the ones who will take it on from here. And so that could be a great reason. A company might do it for a marketing reason. They want to invite their customers to become their fans, invite their customers into their story. So in order for that to happen, they have to tell their story. So that could be a good reason. It could be a really good recruiting tool. As a company's trying to bring in the right kind of candidates, telling their story can be a really good, there can be an HR reason to do it. It could be for investment reasons. A company might be seeking investment, so being able to tell their story in a compelling, interesting way, that could be a reason to do it. Communities, many of the same reasons, like a community might have a big bond measure coming up, or it might have a sesquicentennial coming up and want to create community engagement. Could be interested in creating community development. And so there's lots of reasons for communities to do it too. And nonprofits, many of these same things. Just the premiere event, like creating the story, creating the film, and then just doing a premiere event can be a really powerful fundraising tool. So there can be lots of reasons for companies, communities, nonprofits to want to do a heritage and legacy film that tells the story of where we've been, what we've been through, how we overcame the challenges that were presented to us, and where we're going. It can cast vision and then help people get on board with that vision. So there's some reasons why companies and communities might do it. And I love telling those kinds of stories. I think that's terrific. I love doing it. But what about families? What about individual people? Like, why would a person or a family want to do this? I think it's the biggest reasons. I think it's the best reason, the most meaningful reasons, which is not to cast, I shouldn't even compare. It is not to cast anything on companies and communities. I love those stories. They're terrific stories. But in families, if you've ever experienced loss, maybe you haven't, and if not, the day will come. But most of us have. At some point, you've lost somebody, and after they're gone, there are days where you would give anything to hear from them and to remember with them, maybe to hear advice from them. And that can happen, but it requires intentionality, and it requires capturing that while the person's alive and well. And so this can accomplish that for people and for families. And then what it looks like can look like a lot of things. It can look like a historical documentary. I mean, it can look like a Ken Burns film you might have seen on like Iowa Public Television or like a History Channel documentary. It can look like that. And if that's what you want to do, we can do it. We can tell the story of a family. We can do a family tree documentary that walks through who was so that you are. We can do all that kind of stuff. And those are fun to make, and I'd love to help you make them. We can take your old photos and VHS and 8mm, we can digitize it, we can make it part of the story. That stuff is so fun, but it's not the only way to do it. I love day in the life stuff, where it's like following a person through their day. And like, it could be an ordinary everyday day or like a special day, like a harvest day for a farming family. We did that in our family. Or like, a birthday or an anniversary or some special day. Following like any day, an ordinary day or a special day, from the time that you're getting going in your day until the time your day winds down, you get to like see what this person's life and experience is, and then there's all these moments where it leads to reflection, where you can talk about like, I remember this, or it affords me the opportunity to ask the question like, so tell me about this, or tell me about that. And so like A Day in the Life creates a platform for that kind of film to get made, and it's really cool. Also imagine like a trip of a lifetime. Maybe you've already taken the trip of a lifetime, and now you're left with like some photos or something you shot on your phone or an old camera or something, and it's just, you just want something done with that. And so we could record some now stuff, remembering back on that, and then incorporate some of that stuff to take that trip of a lifetime out of a dusty box and create something that's like, let you experience it over and over. Or if you're gonna take the trip of a lifetime, imagine taking a filmmaker with you and capturing that as in real time as it goes, and all that could come from that, and it will allow you to experience the trip of a lifetime over and over. If it was a big group trip or something, it's like, can be really powerful. Can be really powerful to record it with having one person on the team who's doing nothing but recording the experience for you, and then producing something amazing afterwards. So Trip of a Lifetime can be a terrific way to do a heritage legacy piece. Imagine you have a family reunion coming up. Imagine what it would be like to bring somebody like me to that family reunion to record stories through the family reunion, and then what you'd end up with as a result. Or imagine you have a family reunion coming up and you decide to do this before the family reunion, so when you all get together, you can watch it. Like, just imagine how meaningful and powerful something like that can be. So that's another way. There are so many ways. But the thing is, you just have to do it. I mean, you have to decide to do it. And you don't have to wait until you're old. You could do Day in the Life at any time. Imagine doing a Day in the Life film every 5 or 10 years through your life. Maybe you're hearing this and you're in your 30s. Imagine what it would be like to revisit your life and have that for your loved ones later, every 10 years. Just be a really cool thing to do. There are so many ways to go about it, but it takes going about it. And that gets to like, hey, how do we go about it? How much does this cost? And so let me kind of set that a little bit. If you've seen like a Ken Burns documentary on PBS, or like something like that, like a major release documentary, those are like millions of dollars to produce. Let's set those aside. Now think about History Channel or Discovery Channel, for example, and think about like the best stuff on there. Set that aside. Those are like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to produce. Think about the average show that you see on History Channel or Discovery Channel. The kind of, no offense to those filmmakers, those production companies, seriously, no offense. But those are like kind of time filler shows that are just also on those channels. Imagine those. Those are like $100,000 an episode, maybe $150,000 an episode is what it costs to produce those. This doesn't cost anywhere near that much. It's like 10 or 20% of that much. So you can end up with something that's at that level of production, maybe even like nicer, because if you use Fascination Film Studio, more of a cinematic approach. But anyway, you end up with something about that level of production for like 10% or 20% of those kinds of costs. Which is to say, in that way, a lot less, but still a lot of money. And so, you could do this as like a gift for your family, that you're gonna do this as a gift, as a legacy piece for your family, or you're gonna give it as a gift. Hey, mom and dad, we did this for you. Now here's the gift. Now this is already covered. Now you're gonna get to work with this film team, and he's going to do it, or they're going to do it, or however it works out, depending on the level of the production that we end up with. And it's kind of hard to know unless we talk. So we should just talk. That's what we should do. We should talk, and I promise you, no pressure or no obligation or anything like that. We can just talk about it and get it kind of a scope and an idea of what you want to do and what it would end up costing to do it. And that's the way to go about it. But it's a big investment. It's a big gift. On an estate level or a legacy level, it's not that much. On a gift level, it's a big gift. But sometimes we give big gifts. And usually when we give a big gift, there's a good reason. When we give a big gift, there's usually a good reason. I'd like to think that your life and the relationships in your life and recording your story and preserving your legacy is a good reason. It's a good enough reason to make a big investment in a gift like that. And I have heard it said, and I think it's true, this is something everybody should do by the time they're 75 years old. By the time you're 75, you ought to do this. But you don't have to wait until you're 75. You could do it sooner. And we're working on one, been working on one for some time now on my family. And in the process of doing that, my sister-in-law Sarah found this article on George Henry Stauffer. And he was from Colfax, Iowa, and this guy was a man among men. I mean, they wrote not an obituary, but like an article when he passed away, and it was unbelievable, like how much this guy was loved in his community. And he died at 47. And as I sit here recording this right now, I'm 47 years old. He and I both he had and I have the Stauffer heart, which is to say big heart, strong heart, but not always a beats long heart. You never know what tomorrow holds, so don't wait on this stuff. It's worth doing. And if you are watching this and you're like, this is a good idea, but I don't know if I would click with Tej, that's okay. There's lots of people who do what I do. Find one who's the right fit for you and get it done. Or if you look at this and you say, listen, there's no world where I'd ever be able to afford to have this done. Do it yourself. Find a way. Point your camera phone at yourself and record your story, but it's worth doing. I'd love to help you do it. And I'd love to talk. I'm easy to find. Let's talk about it. I won't put any pressure on you, but I'd really love to help you tell your story. Let's tell your story.